Welcome to Soundhealth on Lagos Television. I am Olasumbo Modupe. Oftentimes we hear people complain about being emotionally stressed, mentally stressed, or going through a mental meltdown. Today we are looking at coping strategies, how to cope with brain stress, whether it is emotional stress, because the World Health Organization said brain stress can lead to other damaging side effects. Stay tuned, the conversation begins after this break. The program is still Sound Health on Lagos Television. Joining us via Zoom this evening is Dr. Leonard Okonkwo, a consultant clinical psychologist, hypnotherapist, and psychotherapist here in Lagos. And he is going to tell us what exactly is brain stress and how to cope with it. Good evening, Dr. Okonkwo, and thank you for joining us.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right, Dr. Okonkwo, tell us what exactly is brain stress? We hear people say often recently that I am stressed. What exactly is brain stress?
Well, the word stress is one word that is highly misunderstood and has so many meanings and different dimensions of looking at it. But just from the word brain stress, stress itself is from the Latin word strictus, which means to constrict, to tighten. So when there's pressure, let's put it that way, pressure itself is a form of stress. When something comes heavily on you and has that much impact on you, you can see that thing is stressful. So when you're experiencing that in the brain or in the brain region, and interfering with the activities of the brain, you can say that is brain stress.
Okay.
Of course,
okay.
Not physiological in this sense, but emotional and psychological.
Okay. So can you call this a health condition, and how do you know you're experiencing it?
Yes, it's a health condition because anything that can interfere with your functionality. If you look at what health itself is, health is a state of well-being where the person is able to, it's a physical, mental, and social well-being, state of physical and social well-being. So when you are healthy, or when you are not healthy, it means that something is not working well. So if there's something hard to do that is interfere with your functionality, definitely we're talking about something affecting your health. So it's a health condition. It's a health condition, mental health condition to be precise.
Okay, so how do you tell you're experiencing this? Is it just that you be under unnecessary pressure, you not feel too good? How do you tell you're experiencing this health condition, brain stress?
But let's say, first of all, that stress itself is not necessarily bad because we need a measure of stress to function very well. For example, people who are in school, if you don't tell them that exam is coming, they don't read. But when you hear that exam is coming, they put themselves under certain pressure that makes them to perform well in their studies, in the examination. Some people will not learn anything if you don't put some pressure on them, which is stress. But when stress becomes too much, that's when it becomes a health condition. Just from the WHO definition of what mental health is, that is a state of well-being where an individual is able to fulfill his potentials, cope with the stresses of life, work productively, and contribute his quota to his community. So you can see now that stress is mentioned as an aspect of mental health. So when people are not able to cope effectively with the stresses of life, then that is affecting the person's mental health or the quality of his mental health.
Okay.
So, and then in that case, when people are not coping well, it affects their functionality, affects the way they work, affects their productivity. And when these things are happening, definitely you are reducing the living standard or quality of life of the individual. So yes, it is, a health condition when it is. Now, how do you know when stress becomes too much? Of course, people are different, but one way to know that stress is too much is when you are able to define what is the average stress experienced by the average human being. So when the stress you are experiencing is more than the one that the average human being is experiencing within your own level, then you can see that that is too much. That again doesn't mean that you have to follow that all the time. But sometimes too, as an individual, if what you're experiencing is more than what you will normally experience, that again shows that you are experiencing unnecessary stress. In fact, we call that the deviant. That's the deviant definition when we're looking at the things that qualify for psychopathology. That deviance, the fact that it deviates from the norm. So if it deviates from your norm, is a cause for concern. And if it deviates from the normal, from the usual norm of the society or the people within your category, then it's a concern.
All right. These days, you hear the younger adults say, I'm stressed. It's not good for my mental health. They don't even want to go through any form of stress. Yet you said stress is good for you. Stress is not that bad. So how do you address this? Because it is becoming a norm. And can stress also lead to other health conditions? Can it be damaging to our brain and well-being?
Yes. Like I said, it's not all stress that is bad, but stress that is beyond or that is higher than the norm or the normal that you should be experiencing for your level, or that is higher than the norm for the general society, then that's when you can say that there is a problem here. So when young people are saying they are under stress, many times they are not actually saying they are under stress, okay, or that it is not good for their mental health. That just is a way of complaining or trying to avoid certain responsibilities. But however, when you say, when you are under stress, or it is the chronic stress that is the problem. Because after a while, when the level of stress has continued, all right, over time and becomes more chronic, that's when it becomes destructive, because what it does is that it makes the brain to stand at alert, because this stress is like a signal coming to the brain, telling the brain that, yeah, something is wrong, like an alarm. Something is wrong somewhere. And when you hear alarm, what happens? Your body comes at alert, ready to fight the stress or cope with the stress. So it is chronic stress actually that is a problem. And it is not only harmful for your mental health, even the physical health too, because there are some psychosomatic conditions that are linked to stress, and chronic stress to be precise. So it's, when the body gets this signal, what happens is that, the brain or neurotransmitters in the brain are activated. The central nervous system has one part of it called the autonomic nervous system. That part of the brain, all right, what it does is, it acts, spontaneously, all right, and that part of the brain, the autonomic nervous system, there is a part of it called what is it called now? That part of the brain just wakes up the sympathetic nervous system, rises up and makes the body ready to fight against this source of stress, because the body is interpreting it as an intruder is coming. So when the body is rising to fight against the stress, you find that the blood pressure will rise, the heartbeat may rise, and other gastrointestinal system may change, and so on. The temperature of the body may even rise because it's preparing the body to fight against this stress or to flee from the source of the stress. So after a while, the body also has a mechanism where it returns itself back to equilibrium or back to balance through the activities of the parasympathetic nervous system. But if this effort does not bring the body back, all right, and the body is constantly fighting, constantly at alert, gradually the body will get into a state of burnout. So start to experience burnout. That's the situation where you become, start experiencing certain conditions or symptoms, that are strange, like body weakness. You don't understand why you are weak. You start losing concentration. You don't understand why, your attention span is reducing.
Short.
And many other, even psychosomatic conditions, headache, and even other psychological conditions like depression. A whole lot of other things can result as a result of chronic stress that is not being managed.
All right. So share with us coping strategies. If it can be managed, what are the coping strategies, to live with stress? Because if you ask me, Nigeria is stressed. The economy, traffic situations. Many people encountered traffic this morning, side aside with some economic distress. Are there coping strategies?
Just like I said, stress is with us. There's a measure of stress that we even need in order to be productive. So we can't do without stress. But it's when the stress is too much or when it is chronic that it becomes a mental health challenge. All right, so how do we cope with stress? First and foremost, there are two major ways of dealing with stress. We have the problem-focused approach and we have the emotion-focused approach. When you see the source of your stress, and you are able to remove it, definitely it's easy to become a source of stress. If you are stressed because you don't have money to pay for your rent, and then you get a call from America, and they say, young brother or young sister, I've not heard from you for a long time. I just decided to gift you with $2,000. And that is enough to pay your rent. Immediately, that stress will go. That is the problem-focused approach. When you're able to talk to people about the source of your stress, and that stress is removed. If you are studying for an exam and the exam is creating so much stress for you, and the next day you hear that actually there is an announcement that that exam is not going to hold, of course, then the level of stress will go down. That is the problem-focused approach. If, like you have in Lagos, where there's a lot of traffic everywhere, and Lagos is not the only place where we experience traffic. Even abroad, there's a lot of traffic here and there. So if you have a traffic situation and you're under stress because you need to get to another place, within a particular time frame, and you're able to call for a helicopter to come and pick you to your destination, that is problem-focused approach. That stress will go because you are taking care of the problem. But dealing with stress or removing the problem is not always feasible. And that's why we have the emotion-focused approach, where if you are not able to remove the problem, then change the way you see the problem. And then the effect of that problem will be less on you. And there's a particular school of thought the cognitive school of thought that says when we react to stress maladaptively, it is because of the way we think. Faulty thinking patterns lead to faulty coping mechanism. And it's based on the teachings of a Stoic philosopher, Epictetus, who said people are not disturbed by the things that happen, but by their views of those things. In other words, many things that stress you, it's not because it stresses everybody, it's because the way you are interpreting it makes the brain, all right, to view it as stress and react to it accordingly. Some people don't care about what do they call this human hair wig now? Or is it wig or hair? Human hair that people are buying for
hair
300K, 400K. Some
yes.
people are not concerned about that. What's their business, with that? But some people, they can't go to a party because they don't have that kind of hair. Because they expect that when they get to the party, different people will be wearing that kind of hair and that person will be left out. So if you change the way you see things, the way you see the trigger of the stress, the effect it will have on you or the kind of stress it will have on you will be different. And thereby reducing the intensity and of that stress, making it easier to cope with. All right, there are different ways, and one of the things actually that make people succumb to this stress because they are too rigid in the way they see things. When you have a fixed mindset about how things should be, you find that when that thing is not resolved, then there will be what we call awfulization, which is exaggerating the problem. You make it look bigger than it really is. And when you do that, then there will be a low frustration tolerance. You'll be able to tolerate the level of stress that it will generate, bringing about a faulty coping pattern for that stress level. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I do, sir.
See that the problem-focused approach or the emotion-focused approach. And in the emotion-focused approach, you change the way you see things. And when you change the way you see things, definitely the effect on you will be different. The level of stress it will release for you will be different, will be better and easier to cope with than when you are rigid and then you exaggerate the effect of that stress, which will now lead to a low frustration tolerance.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Leonard Okonkwo. Thank you so much for letting us to know that faulty thinking pattern can actually lead to irrational behaviors, to over-exaggerated behaviors and actions. Thank you so much, Dr. Leonard Okonkwo. I have been speaking with Dr. Leonard Okonkwo on how to manage stress, especially brain stress. I hope you've been able to learn one or two things. Sound Health continues with trending health report from around the world. Please stay tuned. The program is still Sound Health on Lagos Television. Remember, if you're feeling mentally, physically, or emotionally stressed, you need to seek medical help early enough. A faulty thinking pattern can lead to irrational behavior. Do not take that hasty decision. For comments and inquiries, or you have topics you'd like us to treat, please send SMS to 0035826603 or follow us on social media at Lagos Television #Soundhealth. A sound health is a sound mind. Make healthy living your choice.